Hey, y'all.
Hola, welcome to 30 Minutes Down South. She's Allison.
And he's Carlos, and we are two top producing realtors.
With two extremely different Southern upbringings.
Join us each week as we explore the Lake Murray area with our special guests.
Welcome, Allison, to another episode of 30 Minutes Down South. Actually, our number 50.
50th.
Yeah, I want to put the number on this one because it's 50. It's a big number.
It is a big number, and
Yeah.
I can tell you are super excited about it.
About the number 50?
Well, about our 50th episode.
Well, I'm trying to put all that energy in it because we're going to talk about a very heavy subject today.
It
you know,
is a heavy subject.
So the only way to achieve, not to achieve, the only way, in my opinion, to attack a heavy subject is with good energy. Because if you approach a heavy subject with a down energy, man, you're going to do it in a rabbit hole. You know what I've been doing?
Tell me what you've been doing. I need some of this good energy.
I'm going to tell you what I've been doing. I changed my music in my car.
Okay.
Do you know that I usually used to listen to like salsa, reggaeton?
Yeah.
I mean, when Damien is in charge, I listen to this mumble rap and, you know, all sort of heavy metal. Like I have a very, very good playlist with a lot. But all of those music are kind of like, you know, except Bob Marley, I would say that they're kind of aggressive. You know, they're very like, dun, 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 dun. So
kind of anxiety ridden.
anxiety for you. To me, energizes, but it's just like sometimes it's like a different type of energy. You know, like I've been listening to the classical music.
Really?
Mozart, Beethoven, Sebastian Bach.
I thought you were going to say you were
Vivaldi.
listening to his radio after we had him on.
I mean, like
ago.
I've had him. I've listened to it. Yes.
But classic.
But for the last couple weeks, if you see me on my vehicle while I'm driving, I'm like, nice Chopin in the back, Sebastian Bach. I'm not kidding. Let me tell you. There's the other day, you know, I was turning down here on Amex Ferry Road, and this guy just jumped in front of me out of nowhere. And you know what I usually think? I was like, this motherfucker. No, this time I was like, oh, he must be in a hurry.
Well, maybe we all need to try some of that.
You know, there are some studies that say since we are made of a lot of water, you know, water is a huge part of what we're made of. Music. What happens when you throw a rock on the water or when you have sound going through water?
When the sound bounces.
Yeah, and
vibrates.
Vibrates, correct. And then it modifies the shape of the water. So there are studies that say, you know, that music alters the shape of your entire composition because if you're made of water and the music sound, you know, vibrates and change. It's not gonna grow you a third arm. You know, I know that look that you have on me that you're like, what is this guy talking about? But it definitely affects you. And I must say, it's been making me more
peaceful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give it a try.
Give it a try. It also fills you with a lot of energy, and also cold showers help too.
Well, I'm gonna skip
that's another subject. So.
Let's talk about our guest.
Why is this a heavy subject, Allison?
So our guest actually specializes in financial planning for divorcees. Is that the correct way? So divorce. Are
you asking me? I thought that English was your first language.
Yeah, I know. Divorce is, it's just a hard subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody goes into a marriage planning to get divorced, I don't think. So yeah, it's a hard subject, but I'm interested to see what Stephanie has to say about how you do plan for that, especially how do you plan for something you're not even anticipating. So
that's right, and not just the planning. You know, if you didn't plan but you're in the middle of it, you know, she can help you out. Well, how about we just go ahead and listen to her?
Let's do it.
Stephanie, and welcome Stephanie Vokral to 30 Minutes Down South. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Allison, for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk with us about a very interesting subject. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are, your background, and your businesses?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Stephanie Vokral. I moved to Chapin in the when I'll just say I moved to Chapin when I was probably about 7. So I grew up in the area. I'm one of the people who actually grew up in that area. And so because of that, I really tend to know and understand the culture of Chapin and a town and being on the lake. And so I really take a lot of pride in that. I'm very excited about being on your show today. But so the businesses that I have come out of a very tough time when I went through a divorce around 2004. And through that, I realized that as a financial advisor at the time, I really had a tough time understanding the math and the finances behind divorce. And so that really created in me a desire to help not only women, especially women, because traditionally in the South, we still are not typically the financial spouse in a marriage. And so that really was on my heart to do that. But we have a lot of male clients. We help men through that as well. And we work with couples as a financial neutral who are going through divorce. So that is the financial knot with a K, Knot. And then InVestra is my wealth management practice. I am in a strategic partnership with another lady out of Jacksonville, Florida. And InVestra is a typical wealth management firm where we not only specialize in divorce, helping clients post-divorce. So now you're divorced and you have wealth that you need to figure out, what do I do with this? But also, we help families who are exiting a business. So Erin has a certificate in exit planning, and she specializes in that. But together, we help a lot of families and couples who just are wanting to be smart and have a financial plan and make sure they meet their goals and objectives like retirement.
Awesome. So basically, you are a wealth management firm that
That's right.
also has a branch that specializes in women getting a divorce, or in the middle of divorce, or before a divorce, or after a divorce. Correct? Is that accurate?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yes. But again, we also work as a financial neutral. Many times we'll have couples come to us who don't want to do traditional litigation, and we can be a neutral party to value marital assets and help them come up with an agreement. So we do a lot of that work, and we do like men. we work with a lot of men.
Thank
So
you.
it's just, yeah, you're welcome. It's just that women typically, again, are just not the financial spouse, and they need a little extra TLC through that process.
I think that's an awesome service to offer. I don't think anybody goes into a marriage with the idea of, hey, we're going to get divorced one day. So you're not planning through those years of, let me make sure I'm financially secure, be it the husband or the wife. But like you said, right. I do feel like the females end up kind of taking the back seat, as they're normally the ones to take the front seat as the caretaker for the children and the household and everything else that encompasses.
And understandably so. I mean, I'm married, and my husband and I divide and conquer. You have to. I mean, you can't each do everything, and so many times it's just because that's been a traditional role that they saw in their home growing up as well, that they had a father who was the primary breadwinner and also took care of the finances. And so that's not always the case, and I realize that, but most of the time that's still what we see. So we come in alongside them just to help them through that difficult process.
So you can serve as a mediator between both sides. Is that a separate licensing? How does that work?
Yeah, that's great. Typically, what I do if I have a couple that comes to me and they go, "We really don't want to do traditional litigation. We'd love to work with somebody like you." I am trained by the South Carolina Bar to be a mediator, but I typically like to stick with the finances, which is what I am good at as a certified financial planner and as a certified divorce financial analyst. I try to stay in my lane. And what South Carolina has is there's actually two separate processes that are designed to be much more family friendly than typical litigation. And litigation with mediation is required in South Carolina. So if they don't want to do typical litigation, we have two processes called collaborative divorce, and we also have cooperative divorce. And so those are very similar, but the basic premise is each person gets their own trained attorney who is trained to cooperate and collaborate with a financial neutral like myself. We also can bring in a therapist or a divorce coach that can help with the emotional side for the family. So they're both great processes, and I'm happy to get you the information so that you can post that along with the podcast and have that available for people who are listening.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
Okay. The biggest question that I have in my mind is that how do you prepare? How do you, if somebody is going through or about to go through, how do you prepare that couple or that person? What would you say? Hey, okay, start gathering all your information. What would be the biggest mistake that people make? Let me rephrase it into that question.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer you kind of in two parts,
Mm-hmm.
because it's good to, I think, help our audience understand divorce is primarily financial. Most people think it is legal, and yes, I have wonderful divorce attorneys that I work with and who are great at the legal side, and that is a must. But most of what the attorney does is put together a financial agreement between you and your spouse. And that, even many times, especially if you do not have children, it is almost 100% financial. So because of that, what we do is we come in and we spend time with them and educate them on the process of divorce, as well as the documents we are going to need to value the assets, the marital assets, and then also determine, are there any separate assets? Are there any assets that are not marital? Okay, because that can happen as well. So we do both. And then once we value their assets, the court requires that we look at their expenses and their income, because the two basic components of a financial agreement or a marital settlement agreement are property settlement, which is typically 50-50, and then support, that's child support, as well as, people hate to use the word alimony or spousal maintenance, but that is another component as well. And so then if they have children, a third component would be the parenting part of the agreement. So we come in and we help them prepare for that. We answer questions. We help them understand, no, we don't need that document, but this is what we really need. And then Carlos, you brought up mistakes. I think there's a lot of mistakes I see people make. Goodness, where do I start? Probably
Obviously,
one of
in
the
a
biggest.
divorce, I mean, the marriage was the first one.
Well, yeah, sometimes, yeah. But so I think the biggest mistake that I see is surrounding the marital home. And especially now, you guys are in real estate, you know what a hot real estate market we have. And the problem with that is I'll see couples who separate and they make a decision and they start down a path with the marital home, and nobody is way back here helping them think through that. And so what that means is if let's just say, because this is what I see sometimes, you're the wife, you're not the primary breadwinner, and you have decided as a couple that it makes more sense for you to move out of the home and maybe get a property that has less maintenance because you're not handy, and the husband's going to keep the more expensive house because they're the primary breadwinner and they can do all the maintenance. And so you charge out and look for a small house or a condominium or something, right? So the problem can be if you're listed on the mortgage for the marital home and you start looking for property and you move forward with that and you try to get a mortgage, a lender is going to tell you no.
Correct.
Because you're still on this other mortgage. And so we have to really help clients think through that. And there has to be language sometimes in their temporary, or some people like to call it a separation agreement, but their temporary agreement before they get their final agreement and their final divorce decree, where there's language that basically says the person keeping the home is going to pay for everything related to that home, and then we can get the lender to allow them to move forward with with lending. But you guys also know lenders are also going to want to see sometimes 6 to 12 months of support before you can actually get a loan. So if you're looking at alimony and child support, that's another piece of it that we have to look at, and we have to handle that together. And if the couple is very contentious, a lot of times that can be really difficult. So that period before you get your final agreement, that can create a lot of problems and a lot of animosity. We have to just handle that very carefully.
So, with your experience and in your opinion, if a couple is getting ready to start a divorce process, they say, okay, we this is not working, this is not going to happen. What would be your top 3 advice for those persons that are listening right now?
Well, the first one I would say is take a breath, take a pause, and really try hard to remain amicable, because especially if you have children, you are always going to be a part of that person's life. And so what I see couples do a lot of times in divorce is really tear each other apart and be very ugly to each other. And then it makes it really difficult to continue to work with them post-divorce. It's really difficult. So I would say that, number 1. And number 2 would be to consider an alternate to traditional litigation, one that will help you a lot of times save money because you have a financial neutral like myself helping you to value that property, but then you work together and it makes you more amicable and it does help you post-divorce. And then finally, the third thing I would say is to really try and cooperate with giving each other information. It will save you time and money with your attorney, and that will keep more money in your pocket. I see a lot of couples making the mistake of thinking their attorney wants to hear the context of their story, and I am being as respectful as I can. They don't care. And I'm not being ugly when I say that, but they think a lot of times I will see couples that feel like, well, if they could just understand my side of the story, then that's going to make all the difference. It doesn't make any difference. The law is the law, and you need to go to your therapist for that piece of it. and I'm not saying that being ugly, but it really keeps more money in your pocket, and it really helps you to be more amicable with your spouse if you can save the emotional part of it for your therapist. And I would say as soon as possible, hire a good therapist to help you through the process.
I have a friend who I was in his wedding 20 plus years ago, and he always says marriage is grand, but divorce is a couple hundred.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to cost you.
And it's so true. I don't think people realize that. But if you do go through traditional litigation and you don't manage your emotions, you're going to spend at least 50 grand per person.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Stephanie, I have 3 girls myself. And I, in my
That's
career,
a lot of child support for Dave.
It's a whole lot of child support. Why do you think he sticks around? No, I'm just kidding. But, I've gone through the career, stayed home for a little while, went back to career, gone through the managing the career and the house and the kids, while my husband at one point was working a job where he was gone 14 to 16 hours a day. What is your advice for women? The ones who aren't married yet, the ones who are going into marriage, to try and still have a life they want if they want to be that stay-at-home mom, that caretaker, but protect themselves financially in the event that something, things don't always turn out as we plan.
Yeah, and I think it's such a critical question for us to be asking our friends or in educating our daughters. And I think it's important for us to talk about in church. I go to church. Church is great when you're not getting divorced and post-divorce, but they're terrible when couples are going through divorce. So I will just say that women really need a way to earn an income. And whether it is professionally or blue collar or being creative and working from home online, there are so many ways now for women to have it all, for them to be wonderful mothers, for them to be that example for their children of earning an income, even if it's only for a season. And I completely understand. I have a lot of friends who are stay-at-home moms. I have a lot of friends who homeschool, and I think that's a wonderful choice for your family.
Actually, let me jump in, because actually, if you're a homestay mom or homeschool and you're a woman, or it can happen to a guy too, that you're taking over all those responsibilities, you can set up a company and get paid by your husband, by your spouse.
Correct. And that's where you need to get a good CPA, Carlos. You're exactly right. And that is why I'm very careful about the language that I use. And many times I'll ask women, do you work outside of the home? Because I promise you, we work really hard when we're at home, right? Especially my friends who are homeschool moms, 100%. They work really, really hard. And I think it's a wonderful thing. My mom homeschooled my youngest sibling. So I completely am for that. But I do feel like women need to have a way to earn an income, because what we know is it's estimated that, when women go through divorce, their income is cut by at least 40%. And I don't think, women realize that. They think, oh, I can take them for all they're worth. Well, I do this for a living, and I don't see that. I see that the judge wants to see that you're working. And a lot of times I have had to break that news to women, and it's very hard. And so having a way to earn an income and being really creative with that, you can do as needed PRN work. You can be a freelancer. You can do a lot of things from home. You could have been a professional and then decide to be at home. And I really feel like when women do that, that they should consider keeping that licensure or that certification. Make sure you don't let that go. I would do everything that I could to keep those up. I know it's a pain to do continuing ed and to pay those fees when you're not using it. But I think it makes a lot of sense for women, because most of the time what we see anyway is when the children do get into middle school or high school, women are back out working again. And so it's a great way to jump back into the career that you had before, is to keep up those licensures and those certifications. But again, just being creative. Maybe you take that time while you're having children to be online and educate yourself, so that when they do get to middle school or high school, you have a degree or you have a skill where you can get back in the workforce.
Thank you. That was a good answer.
That was really good. You got Allison. Whoa.
Yeah. I was actually speechless for a minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a subject that we have to handle with care. I certainly don't want to step on anybody's toes, and but I see a lot of things that I wish that women would talk about this more. I do think it's a topic we need to talk about.
I agree with you. I put you in the same category as a will, a prenup, those even insurance, those type of stuff. You really don't want to think that you ever going to need them, but
that's right.
It's good to have them when you need them,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. We all pay homeowners insurance, and we don't get mad because we don't use it, right? We don't want, we really try hard not to use it. We don't want the house to burn down, or we don't want, to have a tree fall through our house. So, but we still pay that insurance. And I think, looking at other things in life that same way, we really do need to think about that you are purposeful about things. You're not hoping that it happens, but you're really planning for something.
Absolutely.
So it makes a lot of sense.
All right, so we're getting towards the end of our interview, if we can call it. I want to say more like a conversation. So why don't you tell us a little bit how can people will reach out to you? Also, I think we made pretty clear that it doesn't matter on what stage you are, even if you're newlywed, if you're in the middle of the marriage, you are about to finish it, or you already ended. You can help people, not just women, but you focus more on women, but you can help both at any point. So if somebody is interested in having a one-on-one conversation with you, how do they go about it?
Yes, thank you. And I will say we have a lot of families we work with. I have single male clients who love me, and they love working with women, and they tell me that they find that we pay attention to details, and we're more holistic in our thinking. And so they appreciate that. So you can get in touch with me by going to InVestra.com. That's INVESTRA.com. And that is our wealth management practice. We've got a book a consultation, button there where you can click on that and you can get on my calendar very easily. We also, if it is for divorce, my separate business, The Financial Knot, KNOT, it's thefinancialknot.com. And we will talk with you about the divorce. We also, we currently don't, but we are getting a way that you can click on a button and get on my calendar. But the phone number is there. Our email is there. Please reach out to us. We handle that. We're very discreet about how we handle that, and we take your confidentiality very serious. So please reach out. We're happy to help.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. This was very interesting. I never even knew something like this existed. So, I mean, wealth management, yes, but not, your specialty with the financial knot. So thank you for sharing with us and taking the time to come on today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, me too. All right. Bye.
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 Wow.
That was good.
It was eye-opening, I got to say.
I'll be honest. I really wasn't sure kind of how that conversation was going to go. Like I said, it's kind of a heavy, deep conversation, and I like lighter things. But it was very eye-opening, and I think it's just like you brought up during the conversation, it's one of those things we need to talk about, just like wills and
prenups
and
actually a prenup is not a bad idea, but I hear you. You don't get married thinking about you're going to get divorced,
right?
Unless you're doing it for the green card, but that's a different subject. No, honestly, just like a will. You don't want to do a will because you think you're never going to die, or you don't want to buy insurance because you think it never is going to happen to you. It is a very interesting part of what I mean. Don't get me wrong. Investing planning definitely is something that everybody should be doing. I mean, you were an educator. I believe that there should be a dedicated class or a dedicated subject base nothing but financial.
Absolutely.
Financial education is, in my opinion, as important as a lot of the subject that these kids are watching in class.
I agree 100%. And, you know, it used to be when I was in high school, we had like home ec classes. You know, it taught you not just cooking, but finances and things like that. And maybe there's something out there for kids these days. I know my junior, she has not had an opportunity for anything as far as like a financial class that's actually something that will carry her throughout life. So
it will, you know, you have to understand how a budget works, you know, how much money you're bringing in, how much money you bring it out.
It's very important.
What are all your expenses? And I think that that's one of the biggest one that I have been through, expenses, looking at your expenses, you know.
Lots of them.
Where am I spending my money and how am I spending my money and where I'm not spending my money and where should it be? That's very helpful. Now with Stephanie, I think that her end is going to be more focused on what to do with the money that it's there.
Right. Once you have the money, what do you do with it? How do you separate it if you're going through a divorce? And
or how to reallocate it if you already got the divorce, you know? And growing your money, I mean, that's a backbone of the United States, you know?
That's right.
Helping money to make some money. But anyway, we are past our 30 minutes and and we are called 30 minutes down south for a reason. And the reason is that this show lasts 30 minutes. So you can hear it in your car, in your shower, in your daily run, or while you're planning to get divorced. Just kidding.
Thanks for listening.
Have a good one.